Do you know what are the 7 ethical policies in anti-money laundering? Please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to be the first one to receive the notification of our latest video. Hello and welcome to Bank Read, where millions of people around the world can learn and be aware of banking and finance. So let's get started. Correspondent banking. Correspondent banking relationships end up necessarily concealing and terrorist finance risks as results of the domestic close down. The dealings need to place confidence inside the foreign bank to spot the patron, verify the $64,000 homeowners, and monitor such transactions for risks. A respondent is additionally an establishment that settles debit and credit dealings activity among the master account of a correspondent. A banker's bank is supposed to help community banks with their services. However, area units typically not hospitable to the public. So it's written as correspondent banking is that the supply of a current or another liability account and connected services to a definite establishment, in conjunction with affiliates, used for the execution of third-party payments and trade finance. What's additional as its own money? Services of correspondent banking. 1. In ancient correspondent banking, a respondent bank enters into an association agreement with the correspondent bank so as to execute payments on behalf of the respondent bank and its customers. The respondent bank's customers haven't got direct access to the correspondent account, but they act with business indirectly. 2. Nested correspondent banking refers to the utilization of a bank's correspondent relationship by a variety of respondent banks. The latter hasn't any direct account relationship with the correspondent bank, however conduct business through their relationships with the bank's direct respondent bank to execute transactions and procure access to totally different money services. Payable through accounts, place along called pass-through or pass-by accounts, unit a touch like nested correspondent banking. However, throughout this case, the respondent bank permits its customers to directly access the accounts. Understanding risks in correspondent banking. Correspondent banking, if not dominated sufficiently, presents a variety of risks that will be exploited. It's essential to remember the risks related to correspondent banking before going into a correspondent relationship. Simply raise any of the banks that square measure connected to constant laundromats. One of the foremost risks related to correspondent banking is that the indisputable fact that the correspondent usually has no direct relationships with the underlying parties to dealing associates is thus not in a particular position to verify their identities or conduct the required due diligence. Danger of de-risking. Although correspondent banking relationships have reduced over recent years significantly, the access to correspondent banking services in rising markets as results of de-risking they still associate everyday essential to world banking. Without the service, banks in developing countries would struggle to understand access to Tier 1 bank, and firms across the planet would struggle to conduct international transactions. This could very lead to associate accumulated risk related to correspondent banking. In addition, instead of utilizing the services of smaller banks, the correspondent services are pushed underground to criminal or unregulated services, wherever there's a fertile atmosphere for illicit finance to wanton area. Foreign branches. Foreign accounts have long been employed by money establishments to facilitate cross-border transactions. However, as a result of its standing to concealing and terrorist finance, this follows encountering heightened concern among U.S. banking regulators. Throughout this rigorous atmosphere, it's further and extra necessary for money establishments to want positive actions designed each to safeguard their operations against illicit transactions and, among the event, their correspondent business involves a lower place restrictive scrutiny to determine associate secure position. AML risks and foreign corporate banking. One of the foremost difficult risks facing all money establishments is newspaper woman banking. In essence, a distant correspondent banking relationship is made on the effectiveness of a distant bank's AML compliance program and in-progress look capabilities. Such banking relationships Square measure typically terribly profitable as results of the out there access to the US industry. However, the danger Square measure typically necessary and infrequently would love the dedication of sizable compliance resources to mitigate risks. Foreign banks would love access to US banks to produce a ramification of services, in conjunction with money management, international payments or transfers, check to clear, collectible through accounts, and totally different services. Exchange corporations. Some foreign money establishments aren't subject to a regular restrictive tip as US banks. Thus, these foreign establishments may turn out subsequent concealing risks to their several US bank correspondents. Investigations have disclosed that, within the past, newspaper woman accounts Square measure employed by drug traffickers and totally different criminal components to launder funds. Shell corporations unit typically used inside the layering technique to cover possession of accounts at newspaper woman money establishments. Owing to the huge vary of funds, multiple transactions, and the US bank's potential lack of familiarity with the newspaper woman money institution's client, criminals and terrorists will additionally simply conceal the supply and use of illicit funds. Consequently, each US bank, in conjunction with all overseas branches, offices, and subsidiaries, has to be compelled to closely monitor transactions associated with correspondent accounts. The trick is to spot and focus. Thanks for watching. We hope you learned something valuable today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit the bell icon to be the first one to get the notification of all the upcoming videos.